This is your warden again, and I'm going to talk about the film Window of the Soul, coming from Mexico, directed by Satoshi Torres and Gerson Venegas. This was a very creative film, one that I really enjoyed, one that flowed together very well. I really like how the characters portrayed themselves. You really understood that our main character is a very stubborn man stuck in his ways, and the actor did a phenomenal job to showcase that through his talent. You really get the sense of something bad happened that isn't necessarily explained to an extent, although I think that's good. I really like how something's happening, you're trying to figure it out, well, what it is. You get a sense who he is. He's a photographer. The cinematography was very well, and in my opinion, it aided the dialogue that it had, and that's another thing I felt this was very well written. The cinematography, I like how before the event that happens to him, it's a very colorful environment. It's a very unique scenery. Like, the cinematography is really good. The walks with the parks is really nice. As he slowly opens up to his assistant, his photographer assistant, you really get the sense that, you know, he's kind of finding a new way to deal with his problem, his diagnosis, his medical diagnosis, I should say. When our main character loses his blindness, you see that the scenery, it's very dark, you know, like naturally it's going to be, because he's waking up in the morning discovering the horrible truth. He does a good job, you know, explaining what it is through the sense of acting without words. Because understand, acting something like that needs to make believable that he is blind and he's not a blind individual, it's a pretty hard thing to do, and he blew it out of the park, in my opinion. On top of that, I didn't notice this until I went to go look at it again, and I thought this was very creative. And if you've seen IFO a few times, you know that I'm very particular about certain framing, and this film had really good framing throughout, really good on the lower thirds, although I'm referring specifically to the aspect ratio. So when he goes blind, it changes to what seems to be a 4:3 aspect ratio. And to be honest, I didn't notice it at all. And I think that's a telling that the story was told well. It only added to what it is. And normally I'm very against that. And this film convinced me that this is a well-needed transition or change or effect to basically close in the world on our character. Another thing I like to add, I understand that short films can be hard to implement a sense of world, right? I really felt like I was in their world. An example, when they're at what seems to be a cafe, you can see there's people around them. It sounds believable. It sounds like there's 30 people in that area, and you can still hear them clearly, although there's a whole world going on around them. A lot of times in short films, it's almost like the world stops for this. Here it's the opposite. Here we see that they're in a world and it's happening around them, and we're just living in it with them. We're walking alongside them. I really think this is a really good film, and one that I enjoyed a lot. This is your warden again, and this time I'm going to talk about the film Outerbound, a romanticized comedy directed by Sean Noronha. I like the music that I hear when the film starts. I like the shots. I really like how they set up the world for Mia, which is our main character. For example, when she's walking down, you really get the sense that she's just a girl trying to figure out life in her early 20s. She's a college student, does regular college stuff, talk to the mother, try to get a job, talk to other guys. You really get a sense in that very quickly in the film, and I think that's important. I like how they set up a world for them. For example, when you see one of the other characters hanging out with his friends or roommates, and then one of Mia's friend, that character, you can see that those characters are all connected. Like they're all in their little world. They're all like, everyone knows somebody. And that's kind of how real life is. So I really like how they do that. I like the conversations that she has with her mother and how it goes back and forth between what she's thinking, what's going on at school, what's going on in their life, and then going back to the mother to talk about dinner. I really like a particular shot when she's in the auditorium and she's basically daydreaming and you see her stand up. That's just what she's thinking. That's what she want to do. That's where her mind is at. And then it further explores that by giving you a short little montage of her in drama/acting class. And you can see that's where her passion is. That's where what she wants to do in reality. Once again, this is your warden speaking, and now I'm going to talk about the film A Story of France, coming all the way from France, obviously, directed by Hanani Habib. Now, first off, I really like how the shots come out. I really like how, once again, you see her face, what she's about, leaves you a little bit of curiosity about where she's walking to. She goes up the elevator, you see her on the desk talking to the lawyer, and then she goes into the story. I really like how the shots are really compromised and how the scenery looks. I love the lighting. I like how it looks like an office. I also like the two shot. There is a little shot that you see both of them looking at each other, and I think that's a very good composition. I also noticed some mirrors in the background, and a lot of times working with mirrors, you might see an extra light. You might see some of the crew. I didn't see anything, and if I didn't notice, that's honestly a good thing, because I always try and go back and see if I see a mistake. I didn't see anything, so I really like that. I will say, coming from the lawyer's shot, the lamp looks a little hot, looks a little blown out. Those are things we got to look out for. Very minor thing. It's just if I have to point something out, it has to be that. Moving on to the rest of the film, I really like how the flow of the story is. It makes me feel like this is a very high-end product. An example, when she goes to talk about her father in Casablanca, how that shot just dissolves and we easily start dollying to the right of frame just to see her father come back in. I really like those type of shots, and makes me feel like the story is moving forward. It's a story that had very good pacing. It really helped me understand what the character's going through, why she's upset. Another shot I want to talk about is her mother. There's a shot of her looking at the mirror, and you can see the children in the background playing and whatnot before you cut to them. Again, working with mirrors isn't the easiest thing in the world, although they make it seem like it's very easy to do. I love how the contrast of she's saying, oh, Paris is wonderful, there's roses, there's gold, and it looks like they're already in a good house, Only for them, I guess, they've never been to Paris, but they go and you can see the mother's a little shocked and it's not what they thought. And shots of especially the sound when the salesman or the realtor leaves the father with the apartment alone, and he can hear other families, and it's kind of a moment for him to be, this is not the best thing in the world, like the elevator is too slow, although the message was conveyed. And the way that the reactions are with the daughter and the mother discovering that this isn't the best thing, and how it moves forward to now what seems the daughter now grown up having a podcast. And I like the little, oh yeah, this is the film, this is how it is that she's talking about. I really think that was a little creative. And I'm here to talk about the film Black Veil. So first off, I think it's a very good film. I really like the practical lighting that they use within these shots in the film itself. For example, they obviously plan when the fisherman lights the candle, There's no crazy adjustments. Sometimes I see a lot of people adjust aperture or ISO or something else on the actual camera to adjust for that lighting. These guys did their homework and they knew, okay, this is going to be the maximum exposure. And I really like that type of thought went into it. On top of that, I also like the composition of a lot of the shots. I really like how everything, for me personally, and they might like this comment, it feels like a Stanley Kubrick film when everything is shot in a particular order or framed in a particular way. And one of the shots that I'm referring to is when the wife walks into the bedroom where the children are, and she's perfectly in the middle. The shot of the doorway that leads into the bedroom is composed. I really like things like that. Also, how it looks like it's all natural lighting. Obviously, you can see a practical right behind her. I just like how, again, it reminds me of a good exposure, a Stanley Kubrick type of framing and composition. Going on to when the fisherman is out and about doing his job, whether he's fishing. I like how I can pause the film in a lot of these moments and it looks like I can just take a screenshot. Like it looks like a well-composed photography, a well-composed photograph, honestly. So I really like how it's done. Certain little bits and pieces, how when they're sharing a drink with the journalist, how the journalist, you can barely tell the bottle's there, it's just off to the side. Then you cut to the fisherman's point of, where he is, and it looks like he has 3 or 4 bottles already and he's drinking vodka. He doesn't even realize he's drinking vodka. So I really like those type of things, how he hallucinates everything. And it made me feel whether if he's in his head or not, and once again, just the way the shots are, I thought they were really well composed and definitely thought out. Obviously, shooting out and about, you can't control the sun, and there had to be a lot of work that had to happen to make that exposure look good.